0. Welcome, listeners and viewers to Quadrapod Studios podcast. I'm Robin Unger behind the buttons and cameras here. We've got returning host Kit Warren here with his nice patterned shirt on, as always.
Well, thank you.
And today we're welcoming in the mushroom people, Tony and Trevor, and we're going to get into all topics, mushrooms, mycelium, psychedelics, medicinal, everything you can think of when it comes to mushrooms.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So Kit Warren, take it away, sir.
Thanks, Robin. Always a delight to have new guests with new information, cutting-edge research here at the Quadrapod Studios. Welcome, guys. I'm so excited about having you here and working together for long-term goals and mental health and healing our communities. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think we share our mission. We share a mission statement.
Yeah, definitely. It's about sharing our experiences that have assisted us, and then with the greater community, they're learning about steps that they can take towards healing their ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And just for the listeners, this is going to be an ongoing podcast with multiple episodes, different topics, mainly mushrooms, but different aspects of the mushroom world. And
Well, we're going to use mushrooms as an excuse to talk about everything.
Yeah.
that sounds great. Yeah.
And Trev's dream of doing podcasts is now taking flight. You're going to man up and take your own show and bring it to the masses.
Yeah.
So not only is this episode of Quadrapod, but this is also the first episode of Mushroom People, the podcast.
Mushroom People, the podcast.
Podcast. Or the Mushroom People podcast.
I think I like Mushroom People, the podcast.
Okay, the podcast.
It's kind of got a real official vibe to it, and
It's going to explain all of the ins and outs of why and what to do and how and all the questions people have.
And as Tony was saying, it is mushrooms are an excuse to kind of talk about everything. Just like mycelium, everything's connected to everything else.
That's it.
We'll just branch out from there.
Yeah,
you can absolutely piggyback on the taxonomy, the morphology, all the glossary of terms in mushrooms, and apply those across the board to all the human family stuff, right? So, yeah, we're doing good there.
And there's a reason that people should be listening to you guys, because you're not just some schlubs off the street.
Well, I don't know about this guy here, but
Well, yeah, I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
True.
Tony?
Give you a reason to actually listen to us.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, let's see if I can muster up something. I've been on a journey my entire life to figure myself out in a way that will allow me to show up in the world and be who I'm here to be 100% without any encumbering of my unique meanness, if you will. So I've been working on that. And, I had a lot of childhood traumas and things like that predisposed me for some superhero powers and some shit to work through. And I've been doing both, been honing my powers and working through my darkness and looking at my shadow. And one of the best things about mushrooms are they are, pardon me, they're the perfect agents for shadow work. They bring light and illumination to the shadow, allowing us to kind of peer in on ourselves and figure stuff out.
So the shadow work that you're talking about would be like things that were sort of held on to in trauma, or things that were slowing your growth in other areas.
Things that have been dictating your behavior, maybe unconsciously, right? So I'll give you a quick example, and I think Trevor has something to add to it. Driving for me will inevitably bring me to a state of anger when people are not being polite, right? They're not signaling, they're not telling you what they're doing. And we do that stuff just to make the world a little better for everybody else, right? So my meditation is to watch that anger arise in me and start to see that for what it is and work with that. But when I unconsciously react in that way, that's my shadow. My shadow is reacting to the material. So becoming conscious of that shadow, and then you take the sting out of life. You're not at the mercy of that shadow anymore, and you can kind of pick and choose how to react to things.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna add, we're talking about psilocybin specifically in regards to
Right,
this.
right,
but
fair enough.
we
Yeah,
will be touching on all the different mushrooms, and yeah, just like a mushroom, it rises out of the darkness, grows out of the darkness, and I think that's a good analogy there for
I
what
think
it can
so.
do for our mental health.
Yeah, from
Yeah,
darkness to
shade
light.
loving.
And I'll just finish too by saying that psilocybin is for me the gateway to all mushrooms. That was my initial um, relationship to mushrooms, and that opened up the can of worms, or the can of fungi,
Yeah.
which we will have here available at Quadrapod Studios.
So
at some
yeah,
point,
we're getting
right?
all the wild reishi and
There you go.
lion's mane, all those healthy wild foods.
The
that
functional mushrooms, yeah, and
Yeah.
the food mushrums, the culinary mushrooms,
Yeah.
right? So it can show you that there's a whole bunch more to look at there.
And is it flavors, or is it nutrients? Is it sort of a combination of a whole host of things that a wild mushroom does in the stomach? Maybe that's a question for you, Trev.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many different compounds in mushrooms, and each one does something a little bit different. So even like a culinary like button mushroom is still packed full of different nutrients and has a lot of different really cool kind of immunomodulating factors. And
Yeah, if
you know,
you think about, you've probably heard the old wives' tale that white button mushrooms don't have any value,
it's a
nutritional
lie.
value. It's bullshit.
And now, just to introduce myself a little bit, I think we should swing back to Tony, but I am a nutritionist, and like my focus is mainly on natural medicine and like ancestral medicine. I'm not an herbalist, but I have a lot of herbal experience. But as a practicing herbalist, Tony, he can give you a lot more details on the actual science of the medicinal aspects.
I guess I didn't really get into like what I do. I sort of said what I've been doing, but yeah, I practice herbal medicine. So I trained as a phytotherapist. It's a plant phytotherapist, but in fact, that's I never like to say I'm a this. I say I practice this.
Yep.
I'm not. You can't put me in a box.
No
So
labels.
I work with mushrooms. I work with plants. I work with people, and I try to figure out how those three things fit together in order to optimize the health of all three.
Yeah. Cool.
And at the moment, you're involved with the local school here. Is that right as well?
Yeah, that's right. So I teach at Pacific Rim College. That's actually where Trevor and I met. Trevor took my mushroom class, and I think a couple of classes in, I was like, all right, you and I have some karma together. We're obviously going to be doing some project, and here we are, which is kind of cool as well to think about. But yeah, I teach a medicinal mushroom, Materia Medica, and I teach a clinic as well. Clinic is sort of observation. You're watching me with a patient. I do a supervised, and I do an independent version of that as well, where I'm sort of advisor, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that you're doing a mushroom walk as well coming up sometime.
Very cool.
I believe I'll put this out tomorrow. So what date is that you're doing that?
Yeah, October 15th and 16th, I believe. I double checked that before I leave. But at Errant Empire in Esquimalt, we will be meeting on the Friday night, and I'll just
Here in Victoria.
Here in Victoria, thank you,
BC,
thank you,
Canada.
Trevor. Yeah, we'll be meeting at Errant Empire. We'll talk about a couple of mushrooms that we have locally here, and then we're gonna go out and see if we can find them the next day.
Yeah,
Right
I
on.
saw it at Francis King Park.
That's right,
I've
yeah.
been there before one time.
It's a great place for mushrooms. Up top is a wonderful place to take your friends and family when they come to the island, and then down below it gets dank and dirty, and that's where we find the mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great introduction there, guys.
Yeah.
And so why don't we do like a quick, well, what would I say, an overview of some of your favorite mushrooms, maybe, or something that comes to mind, and then can branch out from there.
Or we can hyphenate out from there, which
Yeah.
is now I'm getting nerdy.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Is that what it's called when mushrooms split? Is hyphenating?
Yeah, so you get the spores that land, and they find a suitable location to germinate, and they become a single-celled hyphae, and that hyphae seeks through the environment to find its mate, and then combines to form the mycelium.
Okay.
And that's where the fruit actually happens then?
That's right. Once we have the network, which is the organism itself, right?
Yeah.
You can think of the fungal network under the ground as the tree, right? And then the mushroom, in fact, is the apple. This is the fruit that pops up, and we're okay to to harvest that fruit. We're not hurting the mycelium by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people think that if you do harvest mushrooms, then you're potentially killing them off. But it's if you wait until a certain period of time that would they let off their spores. How long after they pop up do they let off their spores? Is it pretty?
Yeah, I mean that's gonna depend, of course, on the
Each
mushroom and
mushroom.
which one, right?
Absolutely.
But let's just say, on average, you look at the lifespan and the morphology and how it's gonna go through its life cycle. If it's one of these fleshy little toadstools, a few days from start to finish, and we have decay and whatnot. So, but even picking that mushroom from the forest floor, throwing it in your basket or something, and walking around the forest, you're actually still delivering those spores everywhere. So we're still doing our due diligence, I think. And
I remember hearing stories. Maybe Tony, maybe you mentioned this, but one of the best places to find magic mushrooms is around
oh yeah.
police stations and things like that, because these people that are doing
Well, these criminals that
all these
are
criminals
experimenting with their
with
consciousness.
their mushrooms, they're
Yeah.
just walking. Seeding the spores of the mushrooms everywhere they
Well,
go.
you find that the medicine for the person is 20 feet away, that Mother Earth provides. So the
That's it.
dandelions are right there for you.
Kid, I've got a.
Yeah.
Have you heard the dandelion story
No,
about?
let's hear about that.
Well, just really quickly, you're hitting
Yeah.
on something here that's worth
Because it's
worth mentioning.
well, it gives us and our readership and everybody who's sort of in Babylon and the cities and just caught in their routines and just asking questions about mushrooms can maybe relate from the other plant world. And if the medicine's 20 feet from you, Mother Earth is doing a really good job.
Okay, you really hit on something, and there's a
Yeah.
little fable in herbal medicine that I like to tell to my students, and it's about the inflated, kind of angry, let's call him the 69-year-old golf playing dad who is his neck looks like it's puffing past his little Lacombe shirt, and his skin's kind of beet red, and his joints are sore because of it.
We got a few of those guys in Victoria.
Yeah, sure. And he goes out and he's looking at all these damn dandelions on the front driveway and get out the Roundup, right? And he's just spraying away, trying to kill these things, and wake up the next day. There's more of these fucking things. And getting angry and working it, finally has a heart attack, right? Because of it. And the dandelion is wonderful heart medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if we take the root and we drink that, or we eat that, or we take that in some form, that's great for heart conditions. And
Hey, are we gonna have dandelion root coffees
Oh,
here?
sure, we can do that too.
That's gonna be
Absolutely.
what I'm talking about.
Well, it's
Coffee.
not mushrooms, but we'll do it anyway. We're gonna be
herbs.
crazy like that.
Well, anything that we can, from our past experiences that gives us a step up. I think that people are on different steps of recovery, and
Absolutely.
so offering a lot of those wide range things, I guess, gives them something wild that's fresh, not shipped from another country, grown in a good soil, and then it's going to give some return on health.
That's just we're starting to talk about our menu now, but
Yeah.
but actually that's a really great idea because it's a coffee alternative. So we can give the mushroom coffee. If you don't want caffeine.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is something that
we
we kind of jumped into without explaining first, but the one thing that's kind of brought us all together is what we're actually building here beyond just the podcast, and that's
conversation.
So we're opening the mushroom dispensary. Hopefully, I think we'll be the first one on the island.
Well, not just a mushroom dispensary, but a well-rounded shop with all sorts of mycological offerings, right?
Yeah. So so the mushroom dispensary, key aspect, but we'll be having all the different medicinal mushrooms and all aspects around mushroom culture here as well. And in addition to that, with nutrition and things in mind, we'll also have an elixir bar set up. Well, the bar is already built. We just need to bring in the elixirs with all kinds of different herbal formulas, mushroom coffee, various things.
This is some exciting news. People can go to a place and get health in a cup.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Quick Like most people go to grab their morning coffee or whatever, Starbucks, it's full of like all kinds of sugar and bullshit. And,
Glyphosate.
yeah, pesticides and mold toxins and all kinds of crap. And so we're
So that would be a
offering an
good
alternative.
morning, and here they're going to get a great awakening.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's kind of like the shade and the light.
Yeah.
So people are being stuck on the shade side, unfortunately, just with practices. How many times do you wake up and really feel like, I got to go through this day, and that coffee you're taking back is really holding you in this position.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we are offering is a new choice that will give some light and happiness to people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're going to have options for versatility as far as all these offerings go. So
Very excited.
hopefully
Well,
adding different mushrooms, different herbs.
That brings me back to my question there of what your favorite mushrooms
yeah.
are. Like, what
Yeah.
would you be putting in some of these drinks? Say.
That's a really good question. I have a running joke that goes with all my classes and students, and I just about say it every time that I go, and this is this mushroom, one of my favorites. I think they're
Every
all
single
my
one.
favorites, so that's a tough
Yeah.
one. But I think lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi mushroom.
And it's when you said cordyceps, like one that is vivid in my memory because I'm watching the Olympics and the
Is it
Chinese
like
teams are
96
just
or
beating
something?
everybody,
Oh,
track
and,
teams.
and they're like, "Holy crap, what's happening here?" And then it's a big news story.
I thought they're all
Cordyceps.
juicing, but
yeah,
it
cordyceps.
turns out they're using this ancient Chinese medicine
Yeah.
and just put them ahead of everyone. And I'll definitely say cordyceps is my favorite mushroom.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty high on my list.
Okay, so
too.
what does it do? What's exactly happening? Is it connecting the fascia in a neural network? Is the mushroom really kind of growing with us?
What it does so many different things. It's kind of impossible to touch on all of them. And we can do a deeper dive into cordyceps with all the research and studies on it. But one of the biggest things it's doing is actually, modulating the immune system. So it affects the immune system in so many different ways on so many different angles. And so that's one of the biggest things it's doing. But it also energizes the body and gives you this massive, influx of energy to get through your day or physical performance, increases oxygen to your cells in your body. And then, it has an adaptogen effect as well. So modulating hormones.
So those are all high level good things. So basically
Absolutely.
we're bringing in real health. No bullshit.
Well, the way I look at cordyceps is you're increasing capacity in all these various ways. So increasing the capacity to increase oxygen to blood, increase that access to the oxygen, increasing all the movement, the protection of the organs. I mean, it's just it's doing a lot, and it's
And that's just one of
that's
these.
just one of the
just
cool
one.
ones.
That's one of these mushrooms.
The cool thing about cordyceps.
How many mushrooms are there? Like what?
Well, there's I'd say over 1.5 million that we are sort of guessing at. Some people say around 3 million different species.
countless
And
that are yet to be discovered.
price wise,
Yeah.
like I know, pine mushrooms have a high value.
Yeah,
Is it sort of what the mushroom does for you then is why it's valued like that?
No, sometimes it's based
Taste?
on the commodity itself. Like pine mushrooms have to be wild crafted and wild harvested. They have a mycorrhizal relationship with specific plants and trees, and we can't cultivate those in a lab, or we can't approximate the relationships because there's often a few bacteria and other cofactors involved.
Special ecosystem. with which the tree provides.
That's
right?
it. Yeah. So there's some agreements going on there that humans we're just not speaking that language.
Yeah. So the price really comes down to how easy is it to either harvest or cultivate. And
that's it.
Now, if you look at cordyceps in traditional Chinese medicine, they used one form that actually, so cordyceps, really interesting mushroom, takes over the body of an insect,
Parasitizes.
and literally controls its nervous system,
Goes out of their head.
makes the insect
That's
move
right.
to the ideal fruiting location, and
In the
then
sun.
it just busts out their brain. And
Well,
It's so funny to see them walk zombie wise.
Oh, yeah.
Bugs just like trucking along.
And there's so many types of cordyceps too, and each one's specialized to a specific insect. But if you actually get the kind that they use in traditional Chinese medicine, extremely expensive. Recently, they found they can cultivate it's Cordyceps militaris, which is they can actually grow without the insect, but
Yeah, it's the sinensis is a little tiny worm that they find in the Himalayas, and it's in the grass. So there's all these Himalayan people on their hands and knees wandering around, and they're trying to find these tiny little brown sticks in the grass. And it's insane that they can find them at all, honestly. But yeah, like Trevor said, we can cultivate militaris. We use a wheat green substrate, so no animals or insects are harmed in the making of this medicine kind of idea.
Mhm.
It's helpful for the vegan folks, I think, out there if they want to
Totally.
access cordyceps. And also a note just before we leave cordyceps in the imports, you want to be really careful getting things from cheap cordyceps from Chinatown. Those are heavily sprayed with antifungal. Sadly, on the way
Mhm.
out.
So just knowing your
Know your
market, know where
source.
your
Well,
sources are.
heavy metals too.
The beauty of
Yeah.
on that is that that all these harvesters that we're attracting, local harvesters, are coming right to our door, and we know where it's from.
Yeah.
We know the spaces and
Well,
the soils.
That's one thing that's really interesting that you have to be careful about when you're harvesting mushrooms. Is mushrooms have this amazing capacity to absorb crap out of the soil. So
Bioaccumulators.
yeah, so if you're harvesting mushrooms in an area that like maybe it was an old dump or something, and it will absorb all these heavy metals out of the soil into the mushroom. So these mushroom harvesters will be harvesting them, and then next thing you know, you got heavy metal poisoning. So you really have to be super careful where you're actually harvesting from.
Well,
And what-
Tony, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
You also mentioned glyphosate,
Mm.
and I actually previously worked for a job back in the 2000s where we had to spray glyphosate in forests.
Okay.
So it's good to check your local areas if you're doing wild mushroom picking.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
see if there are certain areas that have been sprayed or not. And
Absolutely.
And
And
it's- you can't
Why are they spraying glyphosate in the forest?
they're
for the railroad, was it? Or
actually mainly to kill deciduous trees because they're not as valuable to harvest.
Yeah,
as
so in logging
conifers,
areas,
unfortunately.
they
Wow.
will actually spray
pretty
glyphosate, which
gross,
is the most used
Yeah.
pesticide, in the air over these forests, and it kills all the underbrush. So then when the loggers come
That sounds like
it's easier to get at the old growth. And
this mushroom shop is perfect timing
oh, absolutely.
because
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of practices out there that have no common sense.
People
No,
don't
I
realize
agree.
how toxic of an environment we live in, but not only that, but how many toxins are in our everyday food. If you
Oh,
look at
yeah,
just,
absolutely.
you go to an average restaurant, they're getting whatever the cheapest stuff is to, maximize their margins.
yeah.
And a lot of people are realizing this now, and that is giving us the ability to create and forge better things. And I've seen it with the drinks that you're producing here, the information. So seminars, are we going to have seminars
Oh,
on
absolutely, yeah.
talks? When is our first one here at Quadrapod where we can sit down and have coffee together with different people, walks of life that are coming in from Vancouver, higher up the island? They want to learn about how now they can bring their wild harvest to the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think somewhere toward the end of this month, even maybe.
Yeah, on the 8th we've
we'll
got
announce something. But
on the 8th we've got a dinner.
yeah,
That is Peter Zambry's coming Saturday night, and I
Very
think
cool.
he's going to use some wild mushrooms in the
awesome,
tastings,
wonderful.
and then just to have a system where we can explain right from the beginning to people, because they got a lot of questions.
Sure.
Not only about the food mushrooms, but one of the hottest topics is everywhere right now is the circulation of blood that psychedelic mushrooms at a low dose does for the human body. And so we're seeing cell phones and screen times, and people don't really get the connection that is a stoppage of circulation of blood. So this is a very, very good topic to sort of drop elbows on companies that aren't sharing the information that cell phones are one of the dangers out there.
Sure.
Well, if you actually read the insert on an iPhone, it actually says, do not put it up to your head.
Wow.
Like they tested safety for the iPhone at a distance, and they don't tell you that. Everybody's got their phone up your head, and like women that keep cell phone in your bra, they're all getting breast cancer. I'm
So-
sorry.
Of
They're all-
course,
they're all
of
getting
course.
So the solution to this is better circulation that this microdose is offering.
Well, I'll offer you something else in respect to the subject that you brought
Yeah.
up there with the cell phones and everything. If you look at these programs, they're designed to be anxiety inducing. In fact, all the scrolling programs have been designed to create and build this anxiety within us, and then they offer us the solution, which are advertisements, right? So we're more apt to buy when we're not feeling so good about ourselves, or we're anxious or whatever, or depressed, and and the like.
Shopping to get the
But what I'd offer, though, that's really kind of cool about what we are talking about here with the microdosing, not only is that an antidote to all these other things, but there's an anti-inflammatory effect directly for the nervous system from the mushroom.
Mhm.
So we are directly affecting the nervous tissue, calming the inflammation. Inflamed nervous system equals anxiety. It equals depression. It
Mhm.
equals all of these kind of, these states that we don't desire to be stuck in.
Dis-ease.
Yeah, and this is one thing I was mentioning right before we went on air was that when you are in this state of fight and flight, there's actually this bone on the back of your head, the occipital bone, and it shifts and it cuts off the vagus nerve and circulation to the prefrontal cortex, which is where you're actually performing all your rational thought. So when you're in the state of fight and flight, you are literally unable to think clearly and rationally, and you're going to make poor decisions, and that's going to lead to poor mental health.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
If you can get out of the state of fight and flight, which is something mushrooms can help you do, you can just sidestep that altogether.
Yeah, for sure.
We have some deadline that's approaching here with this alarm, but we do not know why.
Yeah, I've been
Somebody
wondering
left
about
their
that.
at Blades of Glory yesterday. Somebody left their watch, and
Oh,
it's
boy.
in the background. It's got
Well,
alerts.
if it
It's
goes
got
off,
alerts
if it goes
going on.
off one more time,
We're
gonna
gonna
have to
smash
find
it.
and
I'm gonna
smash
find out who left this watch here.
Yeah, can we just like put that in? the
Yeah,
room or
it's awesome.
something?
Well, you know what? These little interruptions are good because then we can get on to topics that are maybe have some more meat to the bone.
Sure,
So
sure.
getting the low dose. Are people going to get high?
With the psilocybin?
No.
Not
What-
if you're doing it right.
So okay. So what? And it's not just this psilocybin in there. It's you've got other ingredients that are doing things. Tell me a little bit about what happens when you add other things to the mushrooms.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm the originator of this idea, but Paul Stamets talks about his stack formula, which is where he takes niacin and lion's mane and psilocybin. He stacks them together as a synergy, right? And we don't hear about this too often in our modern allopathic medical model because we're not mixing and matching drugs. But in the herbal medicine sphere of things, that's absolutely what we do, and we get to try our own medicine, right? So that's two bonuses there. But yeah, what I did years ago when I was first learning about herbs and informing or creating your own capsules and things like that was I figured, well, let's start off with this original formula here. I simply wanted to mitigate some of the effects that are unwanted with this experience. So, we all talk about the stomachic sort of gut rot effects that the actual chitin and the actual material can cause.
The mushroom's like protecting itself and say, hey, don't eat too many of me.
Don't eat too many.
Oh, you can have one, but don't eat the whole batch. I gotta make some s'mores here.
Right.
It's pretty cool, eh?
And
Natural defense.
yeah, so for that, I thought of things like chamomile and meadowsweet, herbs that were calming to the gut. Then for anxiety, which is often another feature of taking these things, because and there should be a little anxiety, heightened anxiety. So things like passion flower and other nervine kavas in there just to calm. And because if we're anxious and we're on high alert, we're not going to be effective at anything anyway, right? So
I always felt like the anxious came from a higher dose. Like the low dose always felt like, woo.
You're right about that, Kip. But
Totally.
think about the perception
Yep.
of taking mushrooms, right?
Oh, the scary beginning.
It's
like
the
diving
scary
board.
one.
You're on the
That's right.
diving board. You're
Freaks
like,
a lot of people out.
holy crap, this is a big dive.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to
so,
take this microdose.
so
I'm gonna freak out
perception.
'cause I
So
had a bad experience.
So
once.
really, it's about talking with others, communicating experiences, showing a pathway to have a better perception.
That's it. Absolutely.
Ah.
The rhetoric is important, just as important as in the lead in of this,
Mhm.
because if people understand they're taking something that's going to help them and not knock them out for the day.
Yeah, because
right?
that's the placebo effect, like you
Absolutely.
said.
Yeah.
So this, what is it? Is it like an impact of 50% thought or 100% thought in perception? Because the mushrooms are powerful enough to zap them out of it. That's pretty cool.
Well, I think the mushrooms, I don't know if we could put an exact ratio to what is placebo or not, but the mushrooms without placebo are definitely shown to be extremely effective.
What I'm thinking
in
is the person,
placebo-controlled studies.
the person is like diving into the diving board, looking down, scary, and then they get the mushrooms, and the mushroom switches me personally when I have taken these products, 100% positive thought creation. It's like,
Completely.
oh wow, good things are happening, and more good things happen.
Totally. So mushrooms really have a way of bringing you into that positive mindset where you just have like a greater appreciation for everything. And the microdose, it's not the same as like a regular psychedelic experience, but you just have just that little bit more appreciation for things, a little bit more joy. Now, that being said, everybody's heard of a bad trip, so maybe we should talk about that aspect of mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, I want to round out this before we do and just say that the microdose experience when you have that little bit in you and it just alleviates that tiny bit of inflammation, that gives you just that edge in order to look around and say, what else can I do? What else can I think about? When we're in a state of fight or flight, we're not thinking about anything else, right? So you have to, yeah, you can't. So you have to consider that these things are just giving you that option of, oh, I can actually consider what my options are for the day rather than being at the mercy of your nervous system, right?
So on that same note, I'm a fireman for 9 years with Langford. The number one call out, shortness of breath.
Yeah.
And I've correlated to the circulation of the blood from the low dose mushroom is oxygenating the brain and giving it oxygen so that it can create thought.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part
And
of
so
it.
this is what I've looked at as shortness of breath is sort of a number one anxiety causing thing.
And maybe it's coming into that loop where is it the cause or is it the result or is it the cause, because it just seems to come in, right? And
it's definitely cyclical.
Yeah.
One causes the other.
Does the psilocybin have anti-inflammatory properties as well?
Absolutely.
Extremely
That's what I was
high.
getting at. Yeah. Directly for the nervous tissue.
Yeah.
A lot of
I'd never
psychedelic
heard that
substances,
before,
LSD as well.
That's
very
kind of
like
all the classic psychedelics that fit into that 5-HT2A receptor site.
Oh, and then a macro dose is too much oxygen for exploration.
Well, I find the macro.
That's what's happening. I just see a light went on. It's like like dumping oxygen. Like, here, hey, check out the world. We're gonna fuel this rocket ship up.
Well, oxygen is definitely a big component, but the other massive component with like psilocybin specifically is the fact that it allows your neurons to connect in new ways. So it's actually creating new communication between different pathways in the brain that wouldn't necessarily communicate.
So it is rocket ship fuel.
Well, I think what's happening is there's a synchronization of the two hemispheres, right? And when that happens, now you draw, all of a sudden you have these avenues, this access, like Trevor said, to different areas that don't normally communicate. So Kit, let's say, you get a foreign object in your body.
Yeah.
Your body goes, well, we can't get rid of it. We'll wall it off with some fatty components, and we'll make sure the body's protected. Our emotions are very much like that too, right? So we'll wall off in a trauma and keep it buried. But the psilocybin opens up that hemisphere synchronization.
Unlocks it.
It seems to unlock it, but allowing you a little bit of allowing you to revisit that thing without the same weight or sting that you originally felt, right?
Yeah.
So
you're
not re-traumatizing, I guess, is what I'm.
So this is sacred. This type of we've dived into the macro here, which is 3 grams or more micro. Or that's not a microdose. That's like
that's a macro.
That's like I want to be spiritually safe with people. This isn't kids drinking booze and
no,
absolutely not.
So this is about practices. What we want to talk about is mushroom people, know practices to
Absolutely.
keep our community safe.
Absolutely.
So it's our job as known ambassadors to keep our community safe here and give information and talks on how to do this correctly.
Well, something that's missing largely, I think, from our modern lifestyle is ritual.
Mhm.
And, that's something Trevor and I have had a lot of conversations about. It's something that I spent the last 10 years with a friend of mine directing study on this and actually having a practice, not unlike a yoga practice or
So
your
let's break
martial
it
arts
down.
practice.
Let's break it down. So the ritual are things done to ensure the success of this
That's-
this type of
Absolutely.
it's almost like a shamanic,
Yep.
well done exercise to prepare the person for the fear traumas that
Yep.
they're going to experience.
Yep.
And then to unlock those and release them so they can have a better life.
That's right. I couldn't have said it better myself, Kit. That's just gold what you just said
Cool.
there. Yeah.
Well, this is what I want the people of the world to know. This is going out to the planet, and this is going to heal people all around the planet in traumatic events. And you guys are going to share this beautiful wealth of knowledge so that people can do it properly, practice it safely.
Yeah.
The buddy system is, what I use in the water. This
Yep.
is the buddy system. Come have a coffee with us, talk with us. Learn about the practices that'll keep your ecosystem safe.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of misconceptions around psychedelic mushrooms in the mainstream society, and a lot of misuse of psychedelic substances
Totally.
in the mainstream society,
Mhm.
which is not helpful at all because it is such a potent medicine. But a lot of people will view it as like a party drug or something, which is absolutely not. It's
Well, it's kind of funny. I have people ask me this in my clinic, and they'll say, what if I wanted to do a recreational dose, or what if I wanted to do it this
Half
way or
my
that
ass
way?
off dose.
Well, so I tell people, and I just told a patient here the other day the same thing. I said, you know what? You go ahead and you can have your intention, and the mushrooms are pretty good to listen to what your desired result is, and they will carry that forward. But always be prepared to get a lesson that you weren't ready to get. Because I'll tell you, and you guys know what I mean, in your group of friends in high school, when you all went out with your five members of your team, and you traipsed all over your little city and found weird objects and lit things on fire, whatever else you did.
One guy disappeared.
One guy disappeared, and he found him crying in a corner, right? And he worked out a lot of shit that he dealt with his mom and dad and his sibling and all the.
This isn't often, this breaks into the tears.
That's
the
right.
Tear ducts,
That's
and
right.
using as men using that tear duct to get rid of these vibrations. The mushroom will force it out.
It's a very efficient
huge
system.
release
Very
in those
efficient system.
macrodoses.
Yeah.
You're getting a huge release of like built up emotions and trauma and just like energy in the body that's just like
now
just
what is
shoots out of you.
Trev, what is that? Is that what kind of dose is that? The people aren't going to have that with the microdose.
No.
So there's definitely a benefit to both the macro and the micro,
Okay.
and they're both kind of doing different things.
The way I look at the two, in as far as how I conceptualize these for people, is the microdose is the thin sheets of that onion. So when you go into the store and you go to first, you pick it up to look at it, and the onion slips out of your hand and falls on the ground. Now you got the first layer right there, and that was the first microdose you took. I got a layer off already.
That one doesn't make you cry quite yet.
That one doesn't make you
gotta crack
cry.
it again.
Yeah, that's right. And actually,
That's another good analogy.
Robin just brought in the best part of the analogy that I totally missed this for a long time. So thank you for that, because I'm going to use that.
Just
but
popped to me too.
as we pull these little layers off, we're sort of gently looking at some of the little things that have been holding us back. The macro dose, we're digging our nails into that really chunky, deep, wet layer of the onion, and we're cracking it open, and we're crying now, right?
Yeah.
Like Robin said, we're bawling our eyes out.
For all the times that we didn't.
But in a
For all
positive
the
way.
times that we held it in. The Nikes held it in. Wow.
That's
The plastic suit held it in.
I think as men too, like we're a little bit less inclined to just like let our emotions
Well, it does show
go out, but the mushrooms really force you to do that.
The pathological male needs to be healed, and I'll say this right now, that you hear a lot about the divine feminine, but where have you guys heard much about the divine masculine in the last few years? Not
No,
much,
it's
right?
mostly the demonic masculine. or
That's
something.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the toxic and
Yeah,
horrible
yeah.
and
Toxic
everything about the
masculinity.
man is
Yeah.
awful, right? But there is a divinity there, and I
So it's
think
got to be a balance, right? It's all
that's
about
right.
Yeah,
That's
all of
right.
us have that balance within us, and we
Mhm.
can't always be one thing. But
That's it.
yeah,
And if we have all this goddess talk, well, hey, time to bring the gods.
It is that gets us down a route of everybody across the church here. We've got the rainbow stairs painted, and mushrooms are an all inclusive club.
absolutely.
I would say that that's the one thing that, if you were to put this into a business plan like we've been doing, identify your mushroom person.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like, well,
there's
that's
really not a
it's
single person
everybody.
that couldn't
Yeah.
benefit from
Yeah.
mushrooms.
That's
There
it.
might be
It's a-
people that are scared of it or adverse to it just because of the misinformation and propaganda that's been circulating for years. But in reality, there's not a single person that couldn't benefit
Right.
from these
You're
things.
all our people.
Well, just as
just don't know it
with
yet.
Kit Warren's Mile Zero minnows, and everyone's got our Mile Zero,
Yeah.
everyone is a mushroom person. You
Yeah,
just have
that's
to
right.
find your what mushroom works for you and
So-
what mushrooms work for you.
That's it.
On that note, you're part mushroom.
Well,
Like-
we share up to 80% of our DNA with the fungal, I don't know, community, kingdom, whatever you
Yeah.
want to say. So
Well, I think it wasn't until it was in the last 100 years sometime that people finally realized that mushrooms are not plants. And in reality, mushrooms are closer related to people than plants, which is wild to think
I think
about.
when they started being able to see DNA, and we're like, oh
that's
wow,
it.
Exactly.
That's it. Linnaeus had it in his, I think, Materia Medica. He wasn't so jazzed on it. He
okay.
was like, I guess it's a plant, but not really.
Mm.
So-
yeah.
We've touched on these solutions that mushrooms are going to bring. We better get to work on the business plan. We're going to be busy. As soon as this episode goes out, people are finding this is the solution.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're going to be running down, kicking down the door here
Yeah. Well,
just to find information on the thing that can assist their mental abilities for their family, their friends. We better hire some people.
Well, I think we're living in a world with a real severe mental health crisis, and like the one thing that so far, psilocybin mushrooms have been approved for a couple different uses, but one of the biggest ones is for drug resistant depression and addiction.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that are suffering from addiction and mental health, depression, will find that a lot of the drugs are no more effective than an actual placebo, which is wild to think about. Yet, like things like Prozac are huge moneymakers for the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you look at something like psilocybin mushrooms, you're looking at 80% plus effectiveness, which is not heard of in like the pharmaceutical world for nearly any medication. So it's more effective than almost anything else on the market today, and people can literally grow their own medicine, which is amazing to think about.
So extrapolate why that's never been available.
Well,
Well, let's just say nicely that
Look up the war on drugs.
Yes,
well,
yes.
it's just
Called the war on you.
The fact that we're growing as a world community and we're finding and sharing this information that
Connecting
can
up.
assist people now is the good part. The good. I don't even call it a fight because really it's about common sense and common sense practices to ensure that your ecosystem, your mile zero is as strong as possible. I value my nation, Canada. I love my country. I love our flag because I get to impose my will of what we can bring to the table to make it better for Canadians.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
Really bring about benefit for all the people.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're witnessing right now with this psychedelic revolution, so to speak.
It's on the National. Like,
Well,
I
what's
grew up
CBC
with the
News
National.
Well, look what we're coming
Peter
out of, right?
Mansbridge.
Peter Mansbridge. we're coming out of obviously one of the biggest things of our lives, right? We're coming out of
Traumatizing
this
event.
big old, very traumatizing event, and you can see Kit or rather Trevor was talking about addiction there, and if you didn't have any addictions before the last 3 years, you certainly might be dealing with that now.
Well,
A
you
lot
think
of
you would
coping
need some.
mechanisms
A
to
lot
live
of
in this
coping.
world.
Yeah. Even myself, I would say, a lot of the things that I was
More screen time,
more screen
more
time.
false dopamine and serotonin being released and
Absolutely.
rewarding for things that maybe you didn't want to spend 2 hours on.
A
That's
lot
it.
more couch sitting,
Couch,
For
yeah,
sure.
a lot more
Yeah.
couch lock.
less socializing.
Yep.
And all
All
these
sorts of issues
things, play into health, right?
Yeah.
You connecting is huge.
Everything's connected.
So this,
just like the
I don't
mushrooms.
quite understand this. Then here, this place actually Quadrapod, we got a whole bunch of things happening.
Yeah, it seems like
It's like a
a mini
community
mall
of-
pop-up shops everywhere.
Yeah. and is it basically what I'd like to do is just practice arts that make me feel good and make my ecosystem feel awesome and perform on an athletic level, because I've always been in that mindset. So anything that I can do that's safe for my body, safe for my mind, and builds my spirit is kind of what I want to practice.
Body, mind, spirit.
Yeah.
You got it.
Absolutely.
You got it nailed. That's the medicine.
So now this community of people, the swimmers are growing. We got like usually 25 people down there. We stuff happening here where now the mushroom people are bringing us the healthy mushroom forest goods.
Got the nutrition and the medicine.
And I'd like to actually just speak to the idea of what mushroom people really is all about. And,
Yeah.
I think all of us have had this discussion, but the biggest topic right now is mushrooms. But mushrooms on their own, they're not out in the world just sitting there doing nothing. We're interacting with them, the
Mhm.
people, right? The mushroom people. It's the people that connect and come together. The mushrooms are the locusts. They bring us together. But
Yeah.
it's about that relationship between the people and the mushrooms that we're here to really, facilitate or cultivate, I guess. Cultivate.
Well, I think it's a really interesting analogy how the mushrooms are bringing us together in a community, because that's exactly what they do in nature too, with all the plants.
Absolutely.
Every plant that has roots that go into the soil is connected to the next plant through the mycelial networks. And
they call it the wood wide web.
Yeah, there you go. And not only can they communicate through the mushrooms, they can actually pass nutrients through the mushrooms as well. If one plant is struggling, another plant that's doing well can pass the nutrient through the mushroom to the other plant, and it makes the whole forest stronger.
It's a barter system.
Yeah.
They're actually making agreements. And, I'll just throw this in for added extra bonus content. But recently they found mushrooms, they're using a syntax that they can actually approximate like language. So a complex series of
Almost like a Morse code of the mushrooms.
That's absolutely
like that.
right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So sentience is something that humans
Well,
are kind of
isn't it
blind to.
The largest organism also is a mycelial network.
Oh, for
In
sure.
Almalaria, Malaya, honey
Pacific
mushroom in
Northwest,
Oregon.
is that right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it goes over like thousands of square kilometers.
Hectares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
wild.
And the way the mushrooms communicate too. I'm sure you can search this online and find people playing music from mushrooms where they put, like little
I've done
sensors
that,
into the
actually.
mushroom and then run it through a synthesizer, and they can actually play the music, which is the vibration of the mushroom, and you can hear like these different tones and frequencies being released from the living mushroom, which is really
electromagnetic field or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well,
It's
myself
expressing
and
itself or-
myself and Robert Rogers went out in the field with. He has one of these machines, and unfortunately the batteries were low. But we hooked it up to a red belt, and we got it to sing. And Robert claims that if you start to harmonize, that it will actually start to modulate with you.
it.
Oh, that's wild.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
I thought that was
basically
super cool.
communicating.
Absolutely, they want to sing with us too.
I did that the other day with the ravens. We had two
Nice.
ravens that came to town, and I called them out. Poof, he circled over. He's like, what the heck? There's a raven
I
here.
saw one for the first time in town here myself. It was on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is that the day
means
that you saw one maybe?
I saw there were
Good
two.
luck or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're rarely in town.
So that was on Tuesday. Thor was around maybe, but
Yeah.
Odin's the one
Yeah,
known
Odin's.
for the ravens, I
Raven,
think.
okay.
So with new tech
awesome,
too, maybe we should have tech releases, because it's like weekly understandings are happening with mushrooms, and I think keeping people updated with all the new information is just kind of a cool thing too.
There's a lot happening with mushrooms right now. I mean, materials. We're looking at lots of leathers and things like that are being made.
Nice.
packaging. So we
This
have
is huge.
for Delos, we actually have a mycelium package. This is going to be
Very
packaged
cool.
in.
I've seen
Very
that. There was
cool.
a video I saw a few
Compostable.
years ago where they, like those foam pieces that you have on
That's
every
it.
TV or every couch or whatever,
Yeah.
those ones will be made.
So
Well,
styrofoam,
we have
which
that
is-
already for these.
Oh,
so
very
they're going to
cool.
be shipping with the
Very cool.
mycelial
And
protection
those are, you
packaging.
just throw those in the compost.
Chuck them in the backyard.
Anywhere, yeah, and it'll just biodegrade and
Yeah.
very, very
Join
proud
the-
of that. That
join the
is
system.
awesome. Swimming in the ocean, you see the garbage that's in there.
Styrofoam
This is a
never breaks
problem,
down.
we've got to go after, and packaging is huge.
Well, you know what's interesting? I say styrofoam never breaks down, but that's actually a lie because
Oh.
Mushrooms do break it down
mushrooms
eventually.
can break it down. So
Oh.
mushrooms are actually a major component for our like garbage
So-
crisis that keeps building up. They'll break down all this plastic people say is going to live forever.
Mhm.
You know, in the bottom of Marianas Trench, like they named a shrimp after some type of plastic because they found it. This is the deepest part
Eating.
of the ocean. They'd eaten microplastics, and they actually named the shrimp after this. Is interesting.
So
but
I'm glad you went there because that's exactly where I wanted to go with the remediation aspect
So
of
this
mushrooms.
is way
right?
bigger,
Like,
yeah, way
we're not
bigger
just healing ourselves, but we're healing the planet with mushrooms.
So
Ah.
Trevor mentioned earlier how you could take, say, oyster mushrooms, introduce them to a heavy metal contaminated spot. They will absorb all that metal. Now we can pick those mushrooms and move them to another place and safely remove that metal from the environment.
Mhm.
Equally, some mushrooms can disassemble those dangerous compounds and make them into their inert counterparts
Wow.
or their innate ingredients, right? So taking crude oil, making it into water and hydrogen or whatever else, breaking the carbon rings and disassembling these things. They're
Protecting-
little alchemists.
Right,
protecting
right.
Mother Earth. That's
Absolutely.
right there.
And as Trevor said, we wait long enough and mushrooms will find a way to eat and destroy that thing that's causing a
that's
problem.
really good for the new, environmental church, because once these wars are over,
Mm.
then the new war needs to be created. Like, oh, Mother Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
That's
thing.
coming, right?
If you look at the undercover footage from Project Veritas when they're talking with CNN, what was it, chief of directors or whatever, he was saying, like, after COVID, the next big crisis that we're gonna hype in the media is the climate crisis.
Yeah.
So
They need a crisis.
there always needs to be a crisis, but
So that
with
becomes
mushrooms, we have the answer.
that
At
becomes
least part of it.
that becomes an anxiety that then the mushrooms can alleviate as not being
Well, that's the thing.
something caught up on.
I want to
Mushrooms
take
will help with the anxiety that's being created by the
Yes,
crises
that's
being put
right.
out by the media.
Yes.
I want to take a page out of Kit's book here though, and I'm gonna say instead of they, I'm gonna say we.
Yes, sir.
Keep
And I'm gonna turn around because I actually really like this, and it's
Yeah.
something that I learned from Kit the other day. I'm always doing the spooky they in the shadows.
They're
And,
trying to do this to us.
You know,
They're
it's
doing that.
That's right,
But
and
who
it
is
is
the
us,
they?
right?
It gives power to somebody that's not in the room. It's
Yep.
so good.
Well, here's the ultimate truth, right? There is only one.
Yep.
So they are you, and we are they,
Mhm.
and we are all together.
So
Like,
we
we
have
are
to
Johnny
show.
said you got to be the change that you want to see in the world. So
Mhm.
it
I gotta
all
be the
starts with
change
changing
that's
ourselves.
in my pocket here because like it's driving
Well,
me
I'm
nuts.
really excited to have you guys here. What are the times that we're here? We've been coming here at high noon till later because we've got the swims, but we're working towards the future of being able to be here and answer people's questions and help them through things. And like you said, have seminars,
Absolutely.
maybe showings of the Dose movie or current thing events that are happening. It was a great event at the hall where you did a talk in front of 1,000 people or so. It was huge.
right.
It was a big tent
Well,
there.
I think once we get going properly, we're going to set a calendar in motion
Cool.
and choose maybe one event per month, maybe bi-monthly every,
Yep.
until we get going. And yeah, we're going to dream up some really cool stuff here.
I think we can turn a couple of these live seminars into more podcasts as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the viewing, the movie nights are like, we should pick a night and just have movie night every week if we
Yeah.
can.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So
So
Healthy
objective.
foods, healthy
stay
drinks.
tuned in to the Quadrapod social media. And do you guys have ones for the mushroom people or?
yeah, we have just started a social media for Mushroom People. There's not a lot on there yet, but you can check it out on there. It's mushroompeople.shop, I think is the handle.
Okay,
And
that's
then
a website.
But I think I might
And the
have used
handle
that
as
for
well?
the handle
Oh,
for
oh, okay.
Instagram.
Okay.
But if you find me on Instagram, you can find Mushroom People. So I'm Myco, MYCO_delic. It's like psychedelic and mycological crammed
Yeah,
together,
nice.
mycadelic. And yeah, you can find me there, and that will lead you to Mushroom People and some other places.
Yeah. I would say search me on social media, but I've been off Facebook for like 8 years and off Instagram for the last 2. I'm
Nice
still on there.
work.
Search
Good.
Trevor Nichols with 2 L's, and you can find me. But maybe I'll revisit social media in the future. We'll see.
Yeah. I
All
have a
right.
love-hate relationship with it, but I'm back now for.
At Quadrapod, we'll be talking about all of the things coming up here. We've got about 5,000 people that we can sort of pull into their group of learning about the steps of these mushrooms and how to take them. And I want to invite people down to 917 Balmoral, where we have a studio and we do our podcast, and we're just sharing the information with people that want to look up the right way to use mushrooms in the sacred practices. And I really want to thank you guys for being here and putting your love
Thanks
into
for having
everything
us
that
and
you
being
do.
part of the project.
Right on.
And
Yeah,
Tony,
yeah.
Trevor, take a look into the camera and say any last words you have for the people.
Well, yeah, I want to thank you guys for having us on here, and Kit for inviting us into the space to do something really cool. We hope to have you down here, everybody in the community, and really form a good bond and a group, and just have some fun, do some learning, get better, get healthy, get ruling in our own lives, and yeah, just having a good
Yeah,
time.
and be sure
living our lives.
to tune into the Mushroom People the
The
podcast
podcast.
for future episodes because we're really fun guys.
Yeah, a couple of
Hey,
fun
hey.
guys. Oh,
Zing,
he
zing,
did it.
zing.
He did it. I'm glad someone else did it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, follow us on the social media, Quadrapod Studios, and we will catch you next time.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Peace
One
out.
love.
And say goodbye to summer. It's maybe the first day of fall today, something like that.
It is. It's equinox.
So,
Happy equinox,
happy
everybody.
equinox.
Yeah, happy equinox.
Prepare, get into your fall mood. Start to reflect on the summer activities.
Mushrooms are all about the yin. It's coming.
And the mushrooms are all starting to probably pop out.
We're
in the
going
forest
harvesting.
now, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah, heck
Do it.
get
yeah.
out there and make sure you know what mushrooms you are going to ingest.
Don't eat anything. You know what? If you find something and you're not sure, don't just try to figure out
I'll
what
put
it is.
that.
Come talk to
I'm
us
gonna
first.
put, I'm going to put that little in the description as well. Just
Please don't eat mushrooms.
don't eat
We do not
mushrooms if
condone.
you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for listening to our readers. Keep reading.